Episode 4 of Snowfall was arguably one of the best episodes of the season so far. The ending with Leon killing Skully's daughter was definitely going to have some consequences. We're going to see it play out between Manboy, Skully. They want Leon dead. Franklin is no way giving up Leon, so what's next? I'm talking all things episode 5, so welcome back to MovieBot. Let's talk Snowfall season 4, episode 5. So I hope you're all doing great, and episode 5 was definitely just going to pick up from where episode 4 left off. That gruesome scene between Leon and Skully's boy, which Leon didn't know himself that Khadija and her daughter were in the backseat. I don't blame Leon for this because it was technically an accident. We saw how hurt he felt throughout episode 5 for killing a child. It's not what he intended to do, but it is done now. This episode showed that there is no going back, so we're going to dive deep into what episode 5 showed us. But of course, if you're new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Snowfall and Power Universe related. But let's kick things off where this episode started, and that's with Leon and Fatback. And it was that scene that we saw in the trailer with the car blowing up behind them. It was actually their car that they blew up themselves. They needed to get rid of it. Of course, it didn't help their cause because Leon's fingerprints were all over the shell casings of the bullets that were found at the scene of the shooting anyway. But they blew up his car. He told Fatback that they needed to split up because they were going to be wanted men soon, and wanted men not just by Skully and Manboy, but the cops as well, because Leon and Fatback's faces are now planted all over TV that they are wanted men. And I really don't have a good feeling about Fatback. I thought he may have caught a bullet during the drive-by shooting when Wanda was shot, but he survived. And I just think with Skully and Manboy both out for blood, and Leon's blood, and with Franklin protecting him, we're going to come to that in just a moment, but I just think it doesn't look good for Fatback. They'll catch him, Skully and Manboy will definitely catch Fatback, and they're going to make an example out of him, so I really don't have a good feeling about Fatback right now. But this scene hit hard. The cops were asking Khadija who did this, who was responsible for killing her daughter, but nobody was going to snitch. She wants revenge, and she wants Leon dead. That's what she said later on in the episode when Manboy came to visit Skully's place. But Skully looked a little broken in this episode, I'm not gonna lie, and rightly so, because him seeing his little girl on the hospital bed with the white sheet over her head, she's dead, and Leon's still breathing. This shit definitely hurt him, and in normal circumstances, when Franklin crossed him in the second episode, his reaction was to find Franklin sane and kill him. But his reaction here was just the polar opposite. He was so hurt in this episode. Manboy came to the hospital and made it clear that he was hurt by this as well. He wanted to know who killed his niece, and Manboy said at the end of the day, they're still family. He knows how much Khadija was hurting. He wanted to cause Leon the same pain. And after he found out that it was Leon who was the one who killed Tianna, he went over to Franklin's and told him what just happened. His 5-year-old niece was just murdered by Leon, and even though he was at war with Skully and him and his sister really don't get on, but he said it's funny how tragedy can sometimes bring families together. And this is what happened in this episode. It brought Manboy, Khadija and Skully all together. Manboy warned Franklin. He said that when his people fucked up, he made it right, and to be fair to him, he did. And he did want the same courtesy back from Franklin. He wanted Leon delivered to them. Jerome said there's two options on the table: we protect him, go to war, or give him up. Louis said they'd already done what they could with Leon, and she's right. They did try and make him fall in line. Louis said that they had to give him up because there was no way they could survive a war. The simplest solution to this would be to hand Leon over, because not only would it have helped and squashed the beef between Manboy and Skully, but it would have also got the two crews back on the streets, slinging the dope, making money, which is the end goal for Franklin saying. The quicker he expands, the quicker he makes money, the quicker he gets out of the game, just like he promised his mom. Franklin used to be all about business. He knew delivering Leon to Manboy and Skully is the answer to their problems, but we know there was just going to be no way Franklin was giving up Leon. There was no way he was giving up his boy. So the search was going to be on for Leon. Who was going to find him first? Was it going to be Franklin, or was it going to be either Manboy and Skully? But with Leon, he went to go see his mom, but she hasn't got any money for Leon. He couldn't stay there either, so he found his way to the homeless shelter where Franklin's father saw him. He called Franklin, so luckily for Leon, Franklin found him first. He actually had a place for Leon to hold up in, which was one of the block of the apartments which Franklin owns, and he told him to stay low. Franklin's mom came by as well, and she could see as well as all of us could see, that how much he was actually hurting. Jerome even said that he'd known this boy a long time, but he's never seen him like this. Once he'd killed a kid, there was no coming back from that. He started having visions of Franklin coming to his apartment. It was the scene that we originally saw in the trailer where we saw Franklin putting a gun to Leon. He pulled the trigger, but it was only a dream, which was actually then followed up by another. Honestly, this was something out of a horror movie. This is something I mentioned before with Snowfall being one of the best written shows. He dreamt of Khadija crying, her cry we saw when Tianna was killed, which actually turned into laughter because there was Leon's dead body which she was holding, and this scene just showed how much Tianna's death was hurting Leon, how much pain he's going to be going forward. But I really hope this isn't a foreshadow for what's to come, because I hope this is one character that doesn't die just yet. I have a bad feeling for Fatback. I don't think he'll make it to the end of the season, and I don't know how Leon survives this either, because Skully and Manboy really won't stop at anything until Leon is 6 feet deep. So I really wonder how Franklin is going to play this, because we certainly know how Manboy and Skully are going to play this after Manboy's visit to Skully. So let's talk about that scene next. Later on in the episode, we actually saw Manboy coming to Skully and coming to apologize, making things right between the two, and this is something I touched on in my video last week where I said we're going to see Manboy and Skully put aside their differences to work together. When you have a common enemy, you can put your differences aside, and this is exactly what we saw Skully and Manboy do in this episode. Manboy said it himself to Franklin earlier on in the episode. It's funny how tragedy can bring families back together, and it's taken the death of the 5-year-old niece Tianna to patch things up with his sister Khadija, and now Manboy and Skully, they're on the same page. They ain't best friends of course, and they never will be, but what they are right now, they're on the same page, and that's to make sure Leon is dead. And it is the play that makes the most sense. Even though they were at war with each other, you have the Bloods versus Crips element, but at the end of the day, Manboy said Khadija is family and his niece Tianna was also family, and Manboy said to Skully that he isn't the reason that she's gone, he can't blame himself, but actually beg to differ. He actually hit Leon when there was no need. He was out for Franklin, and him shooting at Leon's crew actually led to the events and the death of Tianna, because that made Leon retaliate, which led him to Skully's grandma's house. So I do think Tianna's death is partly Skully's fault. Now Teddy told Franklin that there is no way getting around this, so Louis actually just lays it out on the table, says it how it is, and says what needs to be done, tells him that they need to take him out to another hideout and then do what needs to be done. But Franklin, he did the opposite. He's protecting Leon, and at the end of the episode, Manboy said to Franklin, you asked me, is there anything you could do to stop this beef between him and Skully? This is all he had to do, was hand Leon over and everything would have been good. But Franklin, he is loyal. He is always going to remain loyal to Leon no matter what. But this is going to start a war, and there's going to be more blood, there's going to be more death, and I honestly don't know how Franklin protects Leon from Skully, Manboy and the cops. So did he make the right choice? Loyalty wise, yes. For the show, definitely, because I don't want to see Leon being killed just yet. But business wise, it was definitely the wrong choice. But let me know what you guys think about Franklin backing Leon. No doubt he was going to. And last but not least, Irene and her story. She is building up a bit of a story, and I'm sure it was Nasir in the comment section, one of the regulars, who mentioned that she's going to suffer the same fate as Gary Webb. I tried to find the exact comment on my previous video to pop it up, but I'm not sure where the comment is, but he mentioned in the comment section that Gary Webb was the journalist who actually was mysteriously killed, which the cops determined was a suicide. So do a quick search on Google for Gary Webb, and I do think Irene will suffer the same fate as him. But that was episode 5 in a nutshell. Let me know what you thought, because it's building up to a war between Manboy and Skully versus Franklin and Leon. Shit is about to get real for Franklin. He's had tough decisions to make all season long, and it's going to get even tougher for him by the episode. So let me know what your thoughts are and your predictions going forward for episode 6. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.